this summer I put forth a proposal as part of the 2016 budget process that included a proposal for meters on Grand Avenue. For 30 years, we have conducted 8 studies. Each one of those studies indicated that parking on Grand Avenue was a significant problem. It was identified as such by the business owners, it was identified by residents, it was identified by customers. None of the 8 studies had a very clear path forward as to how we would resolve the issue of parking on Grand Avenue, although some did suggest that we put parking meters in as part of the solution. This summer I did propose that we would put parking meters on there. I continue to believe that parking on meters on Grand Avenue could be a significant assist to solving some of the problems that we see on Grand Avenue, problems of people not being able to find a place to park, people circling the block repeatedly, people not using transit as often as they should or walking to the avenue. I continue to believe that meters have shown across the country the ability to actually increase opportunities for business. To have open spaces meant that more customers were coming to the businesses, not fewer. I continue to believe that that is the case, but it is clear that in the absence of council support, this proposal cannot go forward. I recognize that this is a very emotional issue. It was very clear, very evident in the the community meeting that we had a week and a half ago, that this is a very emotional issue. I want to say that even though the folks that were in the room clearly demonstrated opposition to parking meters, we do believe that in the broader community, and I was repeatedly told and sent emails and calls from people across the community that did support the idea and the concept of meters on Grand Avenue. However, once again, without the support of the council, we can't move forward with this proposal, and so that's where we stand today. So, though I continue to believe that Grand Avenue would be benefited by meters, at this point, we're unable to proceed with this proposal. With that, I just open it up for a few questions.
This was going to supply some revenue for the 2016 budget. What are you going to do, or what are your thoughts about how you might plug the gap that would be left by this?
At this point, I have not had an opportunity to sit down with my budget staff. Obviously, we have to plug a $400,000 hole that was used for plugged in as part of the 2016 budget. We will identify those resources and have an amended proposal to the council in time for them to adopt it by the end of the year.
And the other question I have is, you talk generally speaking about looking for areas around the city, commercial areas outside downtown where parking meters might be tested or might be looked at. Is that still in your thinking, perhaps not for next year, but for the future?
Well, again, I just continue to come back. Study after study shows, and you know, I refer to the book called The High Cost of Free Parking. There's ample evidence to suggest that meters support businesses, meters help businesses. They help increase the use of transit, and I continue to believe that to be the case. But unless two things would have to happen before any proposal would come forward. First of all, a council member would have to be willing to support that. I think in light of the strong and vocal opposition that we saw expressed over the last couple of months, I don't see that happening anytime in the near future. I hope that we can have a calmer, more rational conversation as we move forward about this issue, where people do get a chance, take it out of the heat of the battle, to sit down. I would encourage people to pick up a copy. I might encourage my library director to bring in more copies of the free cost of high parking, so that people have, in the absence of this specific proposal on the table, the opportunity to understand what the basis of my proposal was, which is sound research and practice and evidence that meters help businesses, they don't hurt businesses. But maybe after a while we've had a chance to reflect on that, and people have had a chance to take a look at it. Maybe we can begin this conversation again at some point in the future, but I don't see that happening anytime soon.
You were obviously aware of Councilman Thune's thoughts of changing his mind. When you got the call today, what goes through your mind?
Well, look at coming out of I want to be clear, coming out of the community meeting, and as I pledged at the community meeting, we were prepared to look at the concerns that were being raised. Specifically, there were concerns about the impact on the surrounding residential neighborhood. There was concerns about what the renters on Grand Avenue in the various apartments or the condos, what would happen to them. And so we had pledged to look at all those issues. We had pledged to really study it and to understand it before we were ever to implement that. So we had work to do before we would have ever actually had had an opportunity to install meters, whether that would be next spring, as was proposed in my budget, or some other point. So I'm a little disappointed that we're no longer going to have that conversation, because I think we could have come through and found some solutions that address the community concerns that were raised. But you know, look, at this is it's political season. We understand that there's an election, and we also understand that, you know, the clear voice of the people that were running to replace Councilmember Thune, you know, voiced strong opposition to this, and so, you know, there were some political considerations, I'm sure, that were playing into this. But at this point, you know, we're going to go to work. We're going to figure out how to plug that hole in the budget, and we'll go forward.
Mayor,
So,
are
to
you-
what extent did you see opposition and support on the council at this point? What was the count?
I don't, you know, I'm not sure what the count was, but the count included Councilmember Thune, and if Councilmember Thune wasn't a part of it, given the strong history of ward preference in the city of St. Paul, there's just no way to proceed on this. So,
Mayor, are you suggesting this was fueled mainly by politics?
no, it's not fueled by politics. I would just say, though, that clearly the juxtaposition of the election next Tuesday, I think people were really hearing it. As you can see, that became an issue in the Ward 2 council race. You saw negative literature going out, attacking various the candidates for their various positions on the parking issue, and that's a tough environment to have a serious conversation like this about how we increase transit use, about how we assist businesses through some kind of a solution on Grand Avenue. It was a tough environment to have that conversation. So, thank you very much. You're welcome to join me at our ribbon cutting over on the east side. Thank you.